start with a question. Do you remember the first Earth Day? Some of us, most of us, were alive then. April 22nd, 1970 was a day, or rather a full week, of teach-ins and rallies enjoyed by 20 million Americans to demonstrate support for environmental protection. It was a time of crisis. In 1969, there had been a major oil spill off the coast of Santa Barbara, and that same year, the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland caught fire. Back in 1962, Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, had been an instant bestseller and was still widely read and discussed. Pollution was front and center, and people were paying attention. That first Earth Day can claim credit for the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency and the passage of some important environmental laws, such as the Environmental Education Act, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, the Clean Air Act, and a little bit later, the Clean Water Act and the ban on DDT. So fast forward to today, which is the first Sunday, September 21st, 2025. A day, or rather a full weekend, of education, advocacy, and celebration around clean energy. It is once again a time of crisis. 2023 was the hottest year ever recorded until 2024, which was a real scorcher. And while 2025 probably won't surpass last year, it is right up there in the top. The burning of fossil fuels generates air pollution, contributes to climate change, and is implicated in millions of deaths every year. And yet the industry receives more than $20 billion with a B, dollars per year in direct U.S. subsidies. And that number increases if you consider tax breaks and other benefits. The global figure for fossil fuel subsidies in 2022 was $7 trillion, trillion with a T. Recent federal legislation further increases subsidies to the fossil fuel industry and decreases incentives to consumers wanting to switch to clean energy. I only vaguely remember the first Earth Day. 55 years ago, I was a first grade student at Shoesmith Elementary in Chicago, which, by the way, is the same elementary school where Barack Obama voted for himself in his first presidential election. And I sort of recall school lessons on garbage, pollution, and DDT. I do remember rushing home from school, excited to tell my parents that we had to stop using paper plates and styrofoam cups, which did not land well. I got a mini lecture on not believing everything my teacher tells me, that it takes more energy to wash dishes than it does to grow trees, and we went right on generating more garbage bags than any other family on our block. So I come from consumerist roots, and I learned early on that not all earnest, enthusiastic, factual messages are well received. Over the past 55 years, I hope I have improved my message. Yesterday, I helped run a booth at the Growers Market with some good folks from the Grants Pass Energy Action Team and Sustainable Road Valley. We had a Sunday theme, and we talked to our neighbors about available clean energy options and deadlines for vanishing federal incentives. We did some local pricing in advance and created a shopping game that was kind of a cross between The Price is Right and Monopoly. It was fun. We talked to a couple dozen folks, maybe a dozen people completed our survey, which I brought the survey cards. We could increase that number today. It's a very short survey. And maybe 8 gave us their contact information. And about half a dozen stuck it out and played our somewhat elaborate game. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Alex. There were a couple of devoted UUs cheering us on. Clean energy shouldn't be a tough sell, but it can be. And yesterday was kind of encouraging. Most of the folks who stopped by our table were open and friendly. A couple of them disagreed with us on particular points, vehemently but politely. No name calling, no demonization, just good old-fashioned high-spirited debate. The notebook of information we used for the shopping game is over there on the table for you to browse. It includes information about light bulbs, yard tools, home appliances, solar panels, electric vehicles, and more. You can check it out after the service if you're interested. It also includes information about those vanishing federal incentives, which include new and used electric vehicle tax credits, which are disappearing, sadly, at the end of this month, September 30th. Heat pump, weatherization, electrical panel, solar panel, and battery storage tax credits, which you have a little longer until the end of the year before they go away on December 31st. And you have a little bit longer, about 9 months, for electric vehicle charger tax credits, if you have an electric vehicle and you want to install a charger at your home. Those go away in about 9 months on June 30th, 2026. The good news is that Energy Trust of Oregon still has state incentives in place for heat pumps, windows, insulation, water heating, solar panels, and Energy Star appliances. You can get more information on their website, and I have some leftover flyers from yesterday. You can pick up some information about the Energy Trust incentives from a flyer on the table. I recently went through a training offered by Rewiring America for electrification coaches. The idea is to have people trained in every state who are willing to help their neighbors walk through the maze of clean energy options and decisions. I'm going to share with you my big 3 takeaway points from that class. The first one is that heat pumps are wickedly efficient. Their economic benefit will vary somewhat depending on climate and electricity prices in different parts of the country. But for us here in Oregon, they showed an example from Seattle, which is pretty close in both climate and electricity prices, where a homeowner who pays over $1,300 per year for electric resistance heating or $800 per year for gas would pay just $453 per year with a heat pump. That's significant savings. Second, heat pumps aren't just for indoor climate control. There are heat pump water heaters and heat pump clothes dryers that use the same technology. And one of the questions I kept getting yesterday was, do you have to have a heat pump installed at your home to use a heat pump clothes dryer? No, that technology is contained in the dryer itself. Heat pump clothes dryers are my new favorite thing. Gary has been warned that there's one in our future. They are ductless. There is no ventilation required because they move heat in and out of the dryer rather than blowing hot air. So there's no more repair visits for blocked fence. I think that one kind of won Gary over a little bit. It was a popular topic of conversation at the booth yesterday. And third, while incentives are good, folks can still electrify without them. You don't have to electrify everything at once because it is expensive, but you can still make a plan. The motto at Rewiring America is, when it dies, electrify. If you have to replace your furnace anyway, the price tag for a heat pump starts to look a lot more manageable. And there's a group called Electrify Oregon that works with Rewiring America and is coordinating folks around Oregon who have gone through that Rewiring America training to offer free, personalized coaching to neighbors in their region. I've signed up for this. I took the class. I can offer some coaching now. And I hope to get some coaching started here in the Rogue Valley. Kathy Conway in Jacksonville, who's with SOCAN, has also signed up for that. So we're kind of the guinea pig coaches in the Rogue Valley. If you think you might be interested in a personalized walkthrough of electrification options, please let me know. I'll tell you how to get started. There's a little intake form online, and you can have the pleasure of offering me the gift of allowing me to practice on you. Sunday is sacred to me because it really embodies the interconnectedness of everything, which fills me with joy and can also be messy. I mean, the warm, fuzzy side of connection is peace, love, understanding, and mutual thriving. And there's a kind of colder, spikier side to interconnection as well, which involves not being able to make annoying people or issues go away. I'm forever connected to them. We're part of the interconnected web, which includes people I'd really rather not deal with. And it's hard to solve big problems without facing issues that I'd rather not face. There's an author and activist named Loretta Ross who talks about the 3 P's of alliance building. We have our proven allies. That's the first P. Those who always show up for us, agree with us about most things, and rarely, if ever, make us feel uncomfortable. I saw lots of proven allies at the clean energy booth yesterday. I love those people. I love you. It's awesome. 2 more P's to go. We also have our problematic allies, those who show up for us on certain issues, but disagree with us as often as not, and usually make us feel uncomfortable, although we're really glad for their support in our areas of overlap. One example for me of a problematic ally might be someone who will fight to the end with me against fossil fuels, but thinks nuclear is a viable clean energy option. I happen to disagree strongly, and there we are. Let's not write each other off. The third P is our potential allies, and that is pretty much everyone else. In the interconnected web, it kind of has to be. Framing everyone as a potential ally helps me to calm down my amygdala, my lizard brain, that tells me I can't waste time on people who disagree with me. I've got to win this fight. And maybe I do win, but afterwards I've still got enemies who are going to work hard to undo as many of my accomplishments as possible, which is kind of like what's going on right now after the Biden era, as that political pendulum swings. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I don't like that man. I must get to know him better." And this captures something important for me. I don't have to be stupid about it, and I can walk away from any situation that feels threatening to me, but it feels strategic to me to see everyone as a potential ally. I'm simply more effective that way. And in the spirit of interconnectedness, I want to give a shout out to Grants Pass Remembrance, which is the local group that works on remembrance, repair, and redemption around our local history as a sundown town. Racial reconciliation work is not separate from clean energy work. It's all connected. There is an Episcopalian bishop named Mark Andrus who wrote a book called Brothers in Beloved Community. I think Book Group read that book. About the friendship between Martin Luther King Jr. and Thich Nhat Hanh. I have a quote from his book here. "Because the world is so marvelously interconnected, people pursuing different paths of justice, of getting into good trouble, are all contributing to the needed healing of the beloved community." And I love this quote both because it evokes John Lewis, Good Trouble, of course, and because it reminds me that we don't all approach the work of healing our world in the same way. We may be working on climate change or environmental conservation or racial reconciliation, or we may be working with vulnerable children or elders. The social problems we confront form a tangled ball of yarn, and any loose thread that anyone chooses to follow helps to untangle the whole mess. My work on racial reconciliation with Grants Pass Remembrance has changed how I work on environmental and climate issues with Sustainable Rogue Valley or the Grants Pass Energy Action Team. And I have another quote from Charles Eisenstein this time. Charles Eisenstein is a fascinating and complex thinker. I do not agree with him about everything, He's definitely one of my problematic allies, even though we've never met. And I still draw an amazing amount of inspiration from him. Eisenstein said this at the Global Earth Repair Conference in 2019. A society that is locking people up and is marginalizing and diminishing and dehumanizing people is also going to treat nature in the same way, to make it into a thing and to treat it as something less than sacred. By doing any work that restores sacredness to any being, we are all doing the same work. The ecological crisis that we call climate change, the cause of it is everything. And I love this quote because it reminds me yet again that there are so many different paths toward beloved community with each other and with the natural world. And as I travel one of those paths, my path toward beloved community, there are setbacks along the way, of course, and it really helps me to remember that things change slowly and in unplanned ways. Even people who aren't joining me are watching me, and I need to stick to my principles and not get lured into dismissing any of my neighbors, using polarizing language, or taking unethical little shortcuts for the cause. We take courage from each other's examples, making note of what's possible. How we treat each other matters, even those who offend us, and perhaps especially those who offend us. I'm going to quote Constance here. Sorry, Constance, who has said that working with Grants Pass Remembrance has softened some of her hard activist edges. And I love that quote, but it can sound kind of risky, like, oh no, I don't want to go soft. But staying hard ignores Robin Wall Kimmerer's insight that all flourishing is mutual. Hard edges don't really promote mutual flourishing. Maybe I do better work with softer edges. That's something I've been pondering in different ways for several years now. I draw courage from so many people, all of you, every day. I draw courage, I think Chaz is here, from the work Chaz Rogers is doing with the Williams Community Forest Project to save pipe fork. I've been watching this unfold over the past few years, and it's such hard work. Difficult negotiations and frustrating conversations, step forward and step backward, and it's such important work, laying the ground, setting an example to inspire future activists, whatever the final outcome is, as if there ever were a final outcome. It's never too late to write a new ending to an old story. We are always being and we are always becoming. Life is not static. It is continuous flow. I draw courage from the work that Jerry Allen is doing with affordable housing that focuses on emergency preparedness, clean energy, and community empowerment. It's a long game. And Jerry, you just keep on keeping on in the face of setbacks, steps forward, steps backward, working toward a vision that can make a real difference in people's lives. I draw courage from the work of Michelle Kipe, her willingness to jump in and strengthen connections with interfaith partners in our own community right here, right now. These relationships matter. And I draw courage from Levon Limpus, who spoke from this pulpit back in June and reminded us that hope is an act of rebellion. And I wrote down a few words from Levon's service. Resist the temptation to believe that we are doomed, that change cannot happen, that this is the best we can do. Resist imperfectly, but resist. When we do, we are not being naive. We are being dangerous. So, if I sound a little naive today, remember that this is precisely what makes me dangerous. This is a source of power, clean power, of course. And I draw courage from a long dead Jewish heretic philosopher named Baruch Spinoza, whose ideas about ethics and politics were so radical for his time, which was the 17th century. Spinoza laid out a rational faith in which God is an emergent property of nature and freedom to think is a core value. I find Spinoza in the flow of life. What we already are is a becoming. We are already in God and we are becoming in God. We are already free and we are becoming free. We are already connected and we are becoming connected. We already embrace clean energy and we are learning to embrace clean energy. It's a long road. The work never ends. So it helps to find joy in the hard work of becoming. I'm going to close with a quote from Rachel Miss Livy, who is the climate justice organizer at the UUA. And Rachel says, I do not want to build the world that is right for me. I want to collaboratively cultivate a world where all communities thrive. And I love this quote because it reminds me not to get overly attached to any particular roadmap. I have goals, certainly, but I don't have a fixed agenda. I aim to get as many different neighbors as possible into the conversation, and the process itself is a worthy outcome. Thank you for your attention.